All right, we're a little bit early there. Let me just say hello to everybody. See who's in this chat there. Jason's there. Hello. Randy. Post the questions. Oh, okay. HVAC chat. Where's Waldo? Waiting for the other guys to show up. I sent them the links. We'll see who comes on here tonight. Generator talk. Let's see. Yeah, I put mixed picture up there, figuring I'd get some comments on that. I asked him if I could do it, so he didn't care. I figured with mixed pick, we'll see. So if I take my pick off, nah, that just comes up with that. I figured it might come up with Mick again. Hey, Rich, how you doing? My good friend Ro, how is the copper and precious metal business? I know it's going down, but it's still pretty good. I guess you've got is it a live tomorrow? Coming up about copper and stuff. If you guys don't know Romantic, check out his channel. Good recycling metals. Tons of metal recycling. Yeah, it's always good to have parts. Everybody's saying hello, hello, hello. So we're just waiting for James and Gary and possibly Bruce and possibly Steve. I sent him a link as well. The way it works here with my streams for these types of tech, usually we have people put in questions, all right, and we try and answer the questions, whether it be about a generator. But since we have James, we have Gary Bernacki as well, and Bruce hopefully too, we can talk about anything electrical, electricity, electronics too, because between Gary and James, there's a lot of the electronic knowledge between the two of them. So I actually had a question too, an electronic question. I got to talk to them later on as well. Let's see. Yeah, sitting around. Dinner at 8:30. That's all right. Ro, I tell you, recycling must be good, Ro, because you're helping out the channel a hell of a lot. Ro's donated literally a couple of $100 to my channel, so I thank you so much, Ro. I do appreciate it. And I think that money's going toward a Rode microphone. That's what I want to use it for, because everyone tells me my microphone is pretty crappy when I'm in the driveway. So that money that you donated last month is going to go to a Rode microphone. So I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Romantic. Robert, how are you, my friend? Gary is booting up. That's good. There's Mr. Tom up in Michigan. Breezy is here. Good to see you. Haven't seen you in a while, Breezy. Good to see you here. All right. Lawnmower speed, crankshaft broken off at the flywheel threads, and the flywheel cracked, engine turns. Parts are cheap for the Hondas now, even from the factory. I use a place in Texas called Plano Honda in Plano, Texas, and parts are cheap. You can get Honda parts really, really relatively inexpensive. RODE is the brand. Mick uses it. Martin Butler uses it. They're like the best mics for doing this stuff. So I definitely got to get one, and that money's going to go a long way, Ross. So I do appreciate it, my friend. How it would happen? Let's see. How would it happen? Crankshaft broken off the flywheel threads. Well, someone over torqued the flywheel nut. I mean, that could have happened. If you over torqued the flywheel nut. Somebody uses a impact or a huge pneumatic with tons of torque. My Milwaukee half-inch will take off a Mack truck lug nut. That's why I bought it. So, yeah, that could happen very, very simply. Too much torque. I've broken off half-inch bolts. No problem. No problem. Let's see. Ceremonic and Shure. Oh, yeah, definitely good mics makes a difference, especially when you're outside, too. I just have to learn how to do the noise canceling. All right, let me see. I think Gary's in the basement. Hello, sir.
Hello, sir. How are you?
Good. What's going on?
Nothing much. Well, I'm just getting my microphone adjusted.
What do you think of the Rode mics?
They're very nice. The ones that are on the boom mic here, right?
Oh, I'm talking about the wireless ones.
What model?
It's the most expensive one. They're like $299 or something for like 3 pieces.
A condenser mic? Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I know when people use them.
Yeah, a large diaphragm mic like this.
Those, Jim.
I got it with this is a cheap Sterling Audio one. It came with the large diaphragm that you see here, and then also the little pencil mic. I think I only paid like $80 for both of them. They sound great. Wow. I guess everything else kind of depends on. You don't need the most expensive microphone. I mean, I have a nice SE that was like $300, and I'm afraid to use it because it's one of those really expensive mics. You don't want to it stays in the studio, but I usually record acoustic guitar with it. But this, I'm surprised how decent it sounds, on my headphones here. And I got a tube, like a vacuum tube preamp that warms up my voice a little bit, so you get a little bit more of the bass.
Yeah. I noticed in your videos you record in stereo.
I do.
Not a lot of people do that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you're one of the only ones that actually notice.
Well, if you have headphones on, you'd notice.
Yeah, if you're the one.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, because
I always set it to mono. Why, I don't know, but that when I'm listening to your videos, you can clearly hear when you're walking around. Yeah,
but you need a specific microphone to take advantage of that, right?
Yeah, you usually get
you
can get the ones that look like this. But my phone, I use my phone for all the recording. I mean, I don't have any GoPros or anything like that. I mean, this is the Note 20 Ultra, and it has great microphones and whatnot. And then for the ones that, like, I just got a whole bunch of pedals from K-Line Technologies over in China. They sent me an entire box full.
Is that the one where you corrected their circuit or whatever it was?
Correct. Yeah. So it's actually been a very good relationship since I fixed one of their graphic EQs. And once I fixed the circuit, they're like, "Oh, we'll just send you a bunch of pedals. Which ones you want?" I'm like, well, "I don't want to work those." And I have to click on the button that when I do the reviews, that it's a paid promotion and whatnot, so that the advertising is proper. But they're like, "Well, we want you to review these power supplies that powers the pedals. But what else do you want?" I'm like, "Oh, I like that. I like that." They sent me everything, and I'm like, "This has got to be well over $350 worth of stuff." I'm like, "I'm not going to use it all." I played a couple weeks ago after it was the weekend after July 4th, and we had like 150 people at this house party. It was it was a lot of fun. But I just didn't like at the end. I went and picked up all my gear the next day because I was just too shot at the end of the night. But I mean, I had well over 1,000 pounds worth of speakers and amplifiers.
Was that the guy that throws that big party in town or whatever it was? Yeah.
Yeah, he's over in Woodbury there. But cops were really cool about it too, and but the parking was horrendous, I heard. But cool. Yeah, so how you guys been? I haven't talked to you guys in a while.
Yeah, work's going crazy for me. I don't know about you, Jim, but it's we're busy.
Yeah, it's always busy, and right now my family's away for a few weeks, so I'm just like flat out trying to catch up on all the video stuff. So there's like all the restraints are pulled out. I'm like, I got to get all this stuff done by the time they get back.
I know the feeling.
Kind of running a little bit ragged the last few days.
You got to pace yourself too. We had my wife's our family was up from Texas for about 2 weeks. We had an 8-year-old running around and doing a little bit of activities every day. They don't come up every year. They usually come up every couple of years. So it's just all hands on deck, being hosting. And it's great to have people in the house and people visiting, because it's just my wife and I and the 2 dogs. So it's usually fairly quiet around here. But
Gary, is he talking about a microphone here? What isn't? Or is it the phone?
He's talking about the S22. That's the Samsung S22 Plus. Yeah. I mean, the other thing too, and this is what I use for when I'm interfacing and if you have a Samsung phone, I forget what this is called, but it's basically got the USB-C, and then you got the power, and then it hooks up to, it gives you a USB A type, and then you can connect like I have a USB mixer that I'm using for the microphone, but I can plug it into my phone.
Nice.
So then I can record in stereo. So when you notice that, I'm like, oh wow, that's So I figured an audiophile would pick up on that, but good on you.
I use the iPhone to record everything, which it's been a struggle, mostly because of the lightning connector. It really limits me in what I can plug into it.
Right.
I ended up getting probably the only thing that is compatible, which is the Shure microphone. It's actually very good.
Yeah.
Compared to the built-in one. I mean, it's just night and day.
You don't have to spend a lot of money on good quality audio equipment, even, and your phone is probably one of the best the video cameras that you got. I mean, like I said, I picked up an SM57 clone for $30.
Oh, wow.
And a couple SM58 clones for a little less. You know, I had six vocal mics, I had 3 instrument mics going on, plus a couple directs where like for the keyboards and stuff. So you don't have to spend hundreds of dollars on decent microphones. I mean, if you really want to be in a professional studio, then yeah, you're probably going to have to drop some serious coin, but not for this kind of
Send me some links, Gary. So
I'll get
like I said, I'm interested in the Rode because Mick and a couple of other guys have those. It just from a distance and everything else.
Hear it very well. Yeah.
It's a very good microphone, and it seems to do noise cancellation, which is really weird because like this one, it's a great microphone, but even if you have wind, you know, it picks it up really well. But the Rode does a fantastic job squashing
what is
that.
Active noise cancellation? What does that mean? When I hear that term, does that mean anything? Active
noise cancellation, it's basically just a feedback loop. So whatever ambient noise is in the back, it's just taking the waves. And
is it a certain frequency and it's just deleting it?
It's inverting them. So if you have 2 frequencies inverted 180 degrees,
each other.
They cancel each other out. That's basically how noise cancellation works. But you mentioned about wind. I mean, I have the pop filter here. You know, you don't really hear that much unless I went around the side. But don't get you get a cardioid type of pattern. It's kind of looks like an oval with a little dent in the middle. That's your typical vocal mic. A diaphragm mic will have a cardioid pattern. A condenser mic will have will have a very directional, and if you go off to the side, you won't hear it very well. Get a cardioid. That's what the Rogue is, and I mean, it's great for the money. I mean, it's an investment. The way I see it is, I mean, I invested $150 on the preamp, the ART preamp with the vacuum tube in it, and it sounds amazing. I mean, I won't use the microphones without it anymore. It's very versatile.
Cool. All right, let me do the ground rules real quick. Hopefully, we'll have Bruce Pender coming up. I gave him the link. He said it may interfere with his dinner, and I said, well, eating on my stream is commonplace. So
I'm good. I just finished up, my wife and I just finished up dinner, and we just came back from a new gastropub and brewery over in Middlebury. So it actually was really nice.
I heard about a place in New Haven I'm going to try. It's like a little pub place, but it's called Rockade or Rockade or something. It's an arcade. And
I've been there.
Yeah, my daughter's been there because she works in New Haven. I got to try.
Yeah, I've heard good things, and if you're into old school arcades, great. I hate New Haven. I don't like going there.
I know. But I figure I have my daughter take me because she works there. She knows.
Yeah, exactly.
So basically, a couple emojis, no all caps unless it's your channel. Just the normal stuff that we do for YouTube. The way I work these streams, and everybody that's here knows, we have people ask questions. Hopefully, people ask questions. I've got a few myself, and we try and answer questions. It's nice for people to come on. Hi, I love you. This and that. What are you doing? What you have for dinner? And all that. That's great. But this is more for the people that don't get a chance to meet and greet with Gary and James and everybody and ask questions. So it's their time to do it. So if you're in the chat, it doesn't cost anything. You're in the chat, throw a question forward, and hopefully we can get the experts here. We can answer your questions. Okay. Brandon, how's it going? Let me start off with a couple that I had real quick. I was thinking about it the other day, and I'm saying to myself, okay, you've got an engine like a Briggs & Stratton that's got a 2-wire alternator, and you've got the AC that's coming out powering your lights, and then you got a diode in there which converts it to half wave, right? Mm-hmm. But is it half wave AC or is it DC because it's charging the battery?
It's DC because it's only one side of the wave.
Yeah, it's half wave, yeah.
But it's technically half of an AC, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, it's like
You
direct
have-
current, positive, negative, alternating current back and forth. And I'm like, okay, it's coming out. The two legs are coming out positive, back and forth AC. You're putting the rectifier on to block it as a check valve. So you're getting half wave, which acts like DC and in effect charges the battery.
Right.
It's only the half wave, but it's like, but is it still AC?
It is DC. What that diode is doing is that every time it goes on the negative cycle, it blocks it and it converts it back to heat through that diode. Okay. So you're actually seeing, you'll see a wave and then a space, and then a space, because that diode is blocking the inverse voltage.
Yeah. Okay. I just didn't know if it was still considered AC, but just half wave AC.
Yeah, it's just half wave DC. That's all it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. What a question I had. One more question for me before we get going.
Like a battery.
With exactly. There's a guy on one of the tractor forums who, when a lot of people have trouble with the old starter generator regulators, those old Delco regulator boxes with the mechanical relays in them, okay, he's saying, and he has used before, a Harley Davidson style of electronic voltage regulator used with generators. Mm-hmm. But what someone said was, okay, yes, you can use a transistorized voltage regulator in place of a mechanical relay type.
Yep.
But what they're saying is, because it's a starter generator, it might generate more amperage than just a regular generator would have on an older motorcycle. So you may burn it out. But then I've also heard people say, oh, no, I bought one of it. It's called a 614 regulator.
Delco Remy's. Yeah.
But these 614 transistorized ones made by, DB and all these other companies, they're like $50, but I would love to be able to use one of those versus having to rely on a Delco box with the relays in it that you have to adjust and all that stuff. Right. But I'm concerned because the starter generator, having the two fields in there, one for starting, one for generating and all that, would it generate too much current? And I'm saying to myself, well, really on startup, yes, but once it's running, it shunts out and it's now a generator. So I don't know. I don't know. I was thinking about that.
Don't have a lot of experience in that in that aspect.
I just didn't know if you'd ever use transistors to regulate voltage.
Yeah, I mean they're in all the AVRs these days for the generators.
Yeah, in fact, it's the same circuit as an AVR. It's just you're not doing as high of a voltage. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean most of the TO 220 types. So I wish I had one to show you, but it's basically looks like a standard transistor, right? Mm-hmm. With the three leads on the bottom. Yeah. And those can handle quite a bit of current and quite a bit of voltage. The ones in the 7000 EXL Generacs, for example, have a minimum of 600 volt rating, and I usually put in an 800 rating when I'm rebuilding them, just because extra voltage is not going to hurt it at all. It's the amperage that is going to be most important, because that stator, well, the rotor winding, I think I did that.
It's very low ohms, isn't it?
It's very low ohms, so it's going to draw, but it's also not. It's only 24 volts DC at full load.
Okay.
So what'll happen?
I'm going to buy one and try it anyway because I got a bunch of old cup.
Yeah, why not? Give it a try. It's not going to, worst case scenario, it just blows up. Yeah. So you
don't learn if you don't try.
Exactly. It's always worth it. Yeah.
I was watching some guy today. He had his friend that, country bumpkin. He goes, here, test for spark. He's having to hold the spark plug, and luckily the coil was bad or something was bad. It didn't make any current. And he goes, sure, the one time when he agrees to hold the spark plug and he gets no current.
That video I just published, I did the same thing. I'm like, let's check for spark. I was holding the boot, turned it over. I'm like, yep. We got spark.
I have one of my videos where I found the hole in the spark plug. Yeah, that worked. The hole in the boot. Yeah. Tommy Hanlon's asking, so the free electrons on the half wave were dumped into heat energy and dissipated?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because the current's it has to go somewhere. It's and since you're blocking it, it's got to be able to handle the inverse voltage and also the amperage. So, you'll usually have a pretty hefty diode if you're probably like a 10 amp diode on the battery charge wires for, like, say, a riding tractor, for example.
Let me ask you.
Need more any of that.
Good, Jim.
I didn't say anything.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was moving my head up and down.
All right. The say, for example, the diode on a Briggs alternator.
Yep.
When you do, is there like a minimum threshold value you should buy as far as the rating or something like that? 5 amp, 10 amp. I mean, how are diodes rated?
Diodes are usually rated. Well, there's a whole bunch of different.
There's a lot of ratings, a lot of types.
Well, I'm saying for a stator
peak
on a
voltage, total current rating, average. There's so many different things. The voltage drop across. So there's so many different values. But normally, like, let's simplify a little bit more. The typical charging systems on a tractor, for example, that's it doesn't matter, 15, 17 horsepower or whatever, that has a stator that is usually around either a 10 amp or a 12 amp. If you don't have the PTO electric clutch, if you have the electric clutch, then you're going to have anywhere from 16 to a 20 amp stator. And that's where you need to have a much heftier diode. But on something that big, you're not going to use half wave rectification. You're going to use an actual voltage regulator to be able to handle that current. Usually on the smaller, like say 5-6 horsepower engines, you'll see a little diode that, I say little, but it's probably like a 10 amp diode, and it's just going to charge the battery because the battery is going to be 20 amp hours, 35 amp hours at most. It's a U1 battery. You don't need that much. You don't want to charge it too quickly, otherwise you're just going to boil it off because there's no regulation. The regulation, if it's one of those halfway rectification type of charging systems, you have to limit the current because the battery is going to wind up overcharging and cooking once it's reached its full charge. You don't want to boil it off.
And you can tell on those two, you give it gas and your lights brighten up.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what they call a dual circuit. So one half of the winding is charging the battery, and the other half of the winding is running the lights on AC. That's where it's getting the full AC. So that's why it dims, and the charging system is separate. Well, it's the same winding, but they split in half. But yeah, it's a very cheap way to do it, but it works.
Bro, cut it out. This guy's giving me the most donations out of anyone in the lifetime of my
good for you, man. Good for you.
He recycles. I tell you, when copper and everything was doing good, I know he did very well.
Copper's about to go up.
Yeah, when you check out it, if you check out his channel, it's some really good recycling videos.
Yeah, copper's about to go up. There's going to be a shortage soon.
Yeah, I'm sure. All right. I have one question. Somebody emailed me a question, or my friend actually, Craig Timmons. A Generac IX 1600.
An inverter.
Yes, the little one.
Yeah. Yep. Those are the ones that stop making power all the time.
Yeah. What's that? A carburetor, but he could only find an IX 2000 carburetor. And I found him an IX 1600 carburetor on eBay, so it's not a big deal. But his question was initially, is the 1600 carburetor the same as a 2000 carburetor?
I have been trying to find one of those machines for a time, just because they're great little machines to have. I have a Yamaha
little suitcase.
The little suitcase. They're like 45 pounds or so. They're great to have. That one, I have not come across it. I don't know if they're the same. I know they have the 1600, the 2000. They have the 800, which is very small. I know that will be a smaller motor, obviously. I think the 1600 and the 2000 do have the same motor. Those have permanent magnet rotors, so there's no AVR or anything like that.
I haven't worked on those either, but the Honda, like the EU 1000 and the 2000, they use the same carburetor.
Yep.
So 1600 and 2000,
probably the same one.
Assuming it physically fits, it might work.
Yeah. Okay. Like I said, I did find him a Generac. It's like $50, a Generac IX 1600 carb, but you can get the Chinese ones, but they only advertise the 2000 one. They don't advertise for the 1600. What's Sandy saying here? Living in the country, I have electricity to pump. Like to have a wall socket for an extension cord, but I've been told it's too difficult. You have electricity, going to your water pump, I guess, your well?
Your well pump?
Yeah. I don't know why they couldn't put a stake with an outlet out there or something for you, a GFI outlet.
Well, you have electricity to the pump, but I like to have a wall socket for an extension cord. That should be on a dedicated circuit. You can't splice off an extension.
No, you
can't do that. I mean, if you wanted to run a separate GFCI on a GFCI breaker, that's usually what they do these days, and also put a GFCI at the plug itself. But No, you can't split it off. You would have to run a separate line and then have that particular circuit backed up by your generator.
Hey, I thought the newest, latest, and greatest though was arc fault, though, not the ground fault.
I have ground fault for my.
So code wise, didn't they upgrade it to arc fault now?
I think they did.
They did.
Your existing systems,
you're grandfathered in.
Grandfathered in.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I have a GFCI double pole 30 amp for my electric brewery downstairs, so they said it was fine. It went with my panel.
Yeah, Sandy, you'd have to run a dedicated circuit for it. You wouldn't want to tie into your pump circuit and risk losing your water. You don't want to do that. So, let's see, what's Brando doing? Oh, Brandon's got a sugary daddy too, like me.
Nice.
Oh man,
it's always good to have.
Always good to have one of those.
Yeah,
10 or 100.
Yeah, I mean, Rode gave me a couple hundred, and I was like, oh my god. But like I said, Rode mic. I'm saving up for a Rode mic. Let's see. My pump house. Oh, okay. She wants in the pump house. Yeah, but definitely a dedicated outlet, though. You don't want.
Yeah, but they would just run a separate circuit for it. If it's in the pump house, I don't see why not. A good qualified electrician should be able to make that happen. I mean, you're only going to run a 15 amp, or even if you're going to go big or go home, just put a 12 gauge 20 amp out there and be done with it.
Pump died. Yeah, that's not fun. My sister-in-law has well water about 6 miles from here.
Yeah,
city water, so I never worry about it. But man, it's one thing to lose your electricity.
Yep. And not being able to flush the toilet.
Well, that's the thing. I'm on pump, and anytime the power goes out, running the pump is a challenge. That startup surge, I have to shut everything else off, turn the inverter on full power, flip the circuit breaker for the pump, and just hope that
it doesn't have a soft start. It doesn't have a soft start.
No, but that's why when you're talking about pumps, I actually just replaced it about a year ago, and we got the soft start.
Yep,
pretty advanced system.
Now the soft start's just a VFD on it.
Well, yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
And when the power, we actually lost power about 2 weeks ago. So I flipped the pump on. The whole house was already lit up, and the gauge barely moved. Like the wattage gauge just kind of gradually did its thing, and that was it.
That's what the VFD is trying to do.
Yeah, we've done that at work with a lot of motors for startup because we were popping a lot of SCRs.
Yep. Silicon controlled rectifiers for those that are not in the initiated. That's essentially what a transistor is too. You know, it's that inrush of current for your central air for any electric motor is going to take anywhere from 2 to 4 times the amount of current on average.
Didn't you have to replace a startup capacitor or something, Gary?
I just changed. Yeah, it's a dual run capacitor. So there's a common point, then you have the fan, and then you have the condenser, and it's been great because, you know, again, I'm on. That thing is nearly 20 years old. I'm just trying to limp through.
Mine's 28, and I pray every year for a good cooling season.
Yeah, no, that's it. I mean, it cooled. It's spitting out 56 degree air, so I'm happy. And the temperature inside here is a nice 74.
I never put a heat gun on mine. I should check and see what they are. What's called pyrometers to see what it is. I never, because my house is not a big house, or Jim's seen my house, but I have a 3-ton unit outside, and it's 28 years old, and it keeps the house cool. It'll cool it down as cool as you want it, but it's just cost a freaking fortune.
Yeah, it costs. Yeah, I got a 5-ton, so I know. I have a 2,500 square foot house, over 2,500 square foot house, so that thing is moving some serious air.
It is,
but you know, it's going to cost like $4,000 to replace it to the new R410 at some point, but.
What's the latest SEER, like 16 or 17?
Yeah. And
you might SEER 10.
Yeah, they'll have to replace the outside unit, the small and large pipe with high and low pressure, and then the coils. That's really the kicker, is trying to get the right size coils that'll fit into your air handler. Everything inside the house stays the same, but then, you know, it's just what usually happens is they start leaking in the outside condenser. They don't break inside the evaporator, inside the coils necessarily. It's always on the outside.
Unless they design the pan under the evaporator with just regular unprotected metal, like mine.
I had water leaking down the door jamb of my bedroom, and I'm like, what the hell is that? It was the galvanized, so I thought, rotted out pan.
Yep.
It just leaked onto my plywood in my attic and ran down the framework and started running into the house. And I was like, oh, nice.
Or I usually have to, because I have a pump. It's down in the basement, so there's a pump that turns on every now and then. The condensate pump to pump the water out.
Yep.
And I usually had to take my air compressor and blow it out so that it was clear.
That happened to my daughter 2 weeks ago. She called up. She goes, Daddy, she goes, we turned the air on, and now the whole utility room's full of water. I'm like,
full of water, yeah.
And what happened was the guy, he was an AC technician, but Rube Goldberg, I think. Anyway, he had the 3/4-inch pipe that comes out for the condensate.
Yep.
The wall for the side of the house was 2 feet away. So all he had to do was put the 3/4 pipe, boom, right out the side of the house. No. He takes a nipple, reducing it from 3/4 pipe plastic down to like a 1/8 ID nipple.
Oh, God.
And then he had the nipple turned at 90 degrees. So there was all kinds of schmutz in there from whatever was laying in there from the coils, and it plugged it. All right. And I didn't realize this at first. So finally, he had the fitting glued in. So I said, the hell with it. I took a wrench and I finally got the fitting off. It pissed out water. I said, just let this run out. And 2 days later, everything was dry.
Everything was dry and fine. Yep. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of experts. You got to make sure you're talking to the right one.
Suicide cord back in the grid. Yeah, you got to make sure you do your transfer switch and all that stuff correctly.
Interlock, that's very important.
Interlock.
Don't skimp on that. I tell you, my father was a lineman for United Illuminating for 40 years, and he could tell me some stories about backfeeding, and they're up on the pole, and bam, he's like, "What the hell?" And it's all, he looks, and there's the one house with all their lights on, and
no, and it's scary. I mean, and they could trace
backfeeding. It's gonna.
What he did is he went over to the pole. And he disconnected it, and he said, "Screw them. Let them call next week when everyone else has lights."
Right? They'll pull your meter. Yeah.
They pull the meter, put upside down.
We've had a lot of house fires around in my area, and we haven't lost power or had any big storms around where I am. But there's a lot of electrical fires because things were not installed correctly. These. Anytime I hear someone doing a suicide cord, I'm like, "You're effing stupid." You really need to. Think of your safety of your family and yourself. You can't be doing that kind of stuff. It doesn't matter if you're going to be the one, how it works, and you're only going to be the only one. That's not good enough.
Tommy, every town has their own regulations, and there is national code. But I would just, I know how to do it. These guys here know how to do it. But just if you're unsure, hire someone who knows.
Yep, exactly. Anti-backfeed breaker boards, huh? I've never heard of that.
My daughter's house, he just has a dead man switch. That's all it is.
Yeah.
You just flip it over on the one coming in.
Yeah, I have 4 breakers for the 200 amp service, and then I have the interlock slide that you can't have the generator and the main breaker on at the same time, and that makes it.
I got the same.
Yep,
it's one of those things. Like in the heat of the moment, you really want something to ensure that you're not going to screw it up.
Exactly. And I got that in the 10 circuit because the 10 circuit will run is running off the battery bank, so I don't have to run the noisy generator at night. So I can run all the LED lights, I could run the fans, I can run all the small stuff, and that'll last me all throughout the night and part of the morning before I need to recharge it.
Jim, which generator are you running though when you lose power? What's actually running?
The Honda EU 6500.
And that's gas or natural gas, regular gas, or gasoline?
It's just regular gas inverter generator.
What type of mileage you get on that thing? I mean, a tank lasts 8 hours or?
That is a great question. I usually check it every 5 or 6 hours. It probably would, but it varies on the load. I probably have it at about half load, I would say. On average.
How long before they restore you usually? Is it a day or two or?
If it's just a random power outage, usually a few hours. If it's a hurricane,
so you're not keeping it. Yeah, I was gonna say, what was the longest you've ever had one on though?
About 5 days.
Oh wow, okay.
8 days for me.
Wow.
Yeah, that sucked.
People too, I said to them, if your town is out, where are you gonna get the gas if you don't have 20, 30 gallons laying around?
Exactly.
Yeah. That's what happened to me during Hurricane Irene, and then that winter snowstorm. I lived a little bit further south, and
the one where you had 4 feet over here.
Yeah, we had. It was just crazy because there were still leaves on the trees, and it knocked the power up. But that was when because EverSource didn't maintain the trees, up here in Connecticut. So that was
now they decimated them. They've gone to
they decimated. Yeah, they got hit. They got hit with all kinds because they had to give back all that money because people were getting. They got like almost $300 for some people for losing power for that long. I mean, people lost their food. It's a month's worth of groceries that they lost.
Yeah,
a lot.
I got a call during that storm. There was a supermarket without power. They asked if I had any 3-phase generators so they could power up their compressors, and I'm like, no.
And those are big.
No,
those are
I don't. I have little portable generators. Sorry. So, all that.
Sandy, I would bill for a $200 electric bill.
Oh yeah, well, mine was this past month is $261. I dare not look at this one's. This one's going
to summer with the AC here is probably close to $5.
Yeah, that's what I'm expecting. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to be able to financially recover. July is tough. And we've locked in our rate until the end of August, and then it shoots up like a rocket. And unfortunately, there's just not much you can do with the recession happening.
Tommy, we have circuit breaker panels here. The breaker panel
with GFCIs.
Yep.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Tommy's over across the pond. Texas, since it failed.
Those they have their own power grid.
Well, I heard about those people down there getting billed like $10,000. Oh, you signed up for it, variable rate. And it's like,
they go by. Oh man, I mean, it's just crazy.
Yeah, here's a good question. The one that doesn't work when you need it, William. How's that?
God. Exactly.
Well, yeah.
I mean, even
I only work on broken stuff. It's hard to say.
Even the Chinese ones nowadays, even the Champion. I mean, 10 years ago, I said Champion, piece of crap. Nowadays, they're not bad.
They're not bad. No, and they're coming out with some pretty feature-laden machines that I'm actually quite impressed. I mean, they're already coming out with dual fuel with propane and gasoline. And, before that was, and I think that's also why U.S. Carb down in West Virginia has been having a hard time because, the market basically evolved without them. And, if you're having models coming out that are already dual fuel or even tri-fuel capable, why bother, converting it yourself? Because it's a pretty expensive, kit to install.
Jim, didn't you just do one?
You just did one, yeah.
I did,
That's
a good point.
I remember you had to flip it or something. You had to flip the adapter or something because it was.
It really wasn't built the right way, and that was something I was very disappointed about. I mean, I got it to work, but for the amount of money you pay for that kit versus a clone kit I could have got, I expected
you don't get the snorkel, you get the Venturi.
I would have gone through Gary. That way, I would have bitched at him.
I know Hugh. If you, I
mentioned it to Gary, and he got the same cold shoulder, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, I messaged him on Facebook, and I didn't do anything past that, but I mean, I could always call, but just to see what's going on.
After I spoke to you after that video published, because I actually wrote to them before, asking if they wanted to go in on this, like with promotion.
That's what I said.
No response. Yeah, absolutely no response. So fine. I bought it myself, published the video. After speaking with you, I called their service area, left them. Actually, I was told to send them an email. I sent them an email with a link to the video and a description of the problem.
Yep.
Never heard a thing.
Wow.
So I'm, there's some other kits out there. I think if I do it again, I'd probably try.
That's too bad because I know they have a patent on that snorkel, and I know the snorkels, in my opinion, is actually superior than to the Venturi that you usually find on most of those lower level kits. But because it's older technology, it's going to come down in price. They're going to sell a lot easier. Because I know with the Venturi, if you have to add the stud extenders, and then you have some of these machines, you actually have to cut the frame in order for it to work.
A lot of them.
That tube is always in the way. Yeah.
Well, right. There's another vendor too I was looking at. I think it was called PNG.
Yep.
Which very similar, but two of the things I didn't like about this kit, they do. So I'm going to try them next. But the kits are so expensive. Like a lot of the generators I buy, I fix and sell. And to spend $200 on a kit plus whatever you spent to purchase the generator, you'll almost never get your money back.
Yeah, well, that's what I have those 3 generators that I fixed the last couple months. They're still sitting. I'm about to go and just drop the prices a little bit and see if they'll get any attention. But we need. I hate to say it, but I'm waiting for the next storm. Give me a storm. kill the power so we can get some desperate people.
Well, one question I get a lot too is the standard 20-pound, gas grill barbecue tank. How long will that run a 5,000 generator for?
So a 5,500 watts, so it's about 4.7 gallons of propane. Propane is a less BTU, so you're actually going to use more propane in order to equal the same load. You're probably going to be somewhere around, my guess, it's on the US card, but if I had to guess, I think it would be about 5 hours, 6 hours instead of your standard 8 hours.
Right, and that's if you can maintain pressure.
And because a 20-pound,
depending on the temperature outside, right?
Right, it's because it needs vapor.
Dead of winter,
you get it's like a 60-40. So you have liquid propane on the bottom, then you have the gaseous propane, and then it needs heat to expand into a gas. A 20-pounder will be great in the summer, in the sun. In the winter, nope. Yeah. You need something way bigger for the bigger surface area, more surface area, bigger tank to vaporize that fuel.
Yeah, even all manufacturers have issues. I mean, I've gotten plenty of new stuff that has minor issues, things that if you don't know how to fix stuff, then it's
there's
going to be a problem. But it's like they rush stuff out the door. It might be a minor thing, but it will prevent you from successfully running the engine or whatever.
Right. And if we're we could probably branch off and just do do a live like this, like right before a storm, and just kind of have it as like a call board and like, what's your problem? All right, well, let's go through it. And honestly, I've contemplated that because it's not the first time that's happened. I had like 7 or 8 generators I did emergency calls on we had a microburst happen up here and we lost trees and stuff like that. But all the surrounding towns, people couldn't get their machines started because why? They stored the generator, left it with fuel in it, and it smelled like varnish. And I'm like, okay, I'm doing carburetor cleans. I literally set up my little EF2000 Yamaha generator in the back on the side of my car, ran the ultrasonic cleaner on all these jobs, well over $100 an hour, but I got it running, and they were out of power for a few days after that. So hey, it's the way you did it. That was some good money then. Yeah. But that's what happens, plan for your emergencies.
Yeah. William, if I were you and I was just looking for something small and I didn't have a generator, I would probably buy an EU2000 Honda if it was me. I mean, to me, that's like the standard for a small, dependable, quality generator that you can get for $1,000.
And it's more quieter than the Yamaha. The only major difference between the two, the Yamaha has a separate ignition switch and a fuel cutoff switch, where the Honda has it all built into one. And 2, the Yamaha has a cast camshaft, where the Honda has a timing belt
and plastic
and a plastic
cam gear. Yeah. So and it's a split case. The Honda, after taking it apart, I'm not as impressed with, but I can't argue with the fact that they run for thousands and thousands.
They're very well engineered. When they go,
anytime you go to any fair or anything, it's the Honda EU2000.
It is.
That is. I mean, it is standard. Quiet. It's very reliable. You can put thousands of hours on them. Hundreds of hours, because that's 1,000 hours.
Although I've had to do a crap load of pilot jets on those, because everyone I've run into hunts, every single one.
Interesting. Yeah, I think I had to do that too on that Kipper generator that I have there, the 3000. A little bit of cleaning out of the carburetor.
I still have one in my garage, Jim, that I got to do the camshaft on. The one with the broken the worn camshaft.
I just pulled a cam from a 420cc engine. It might fit.
Oh, did you? Oh, okay.
Camshaft work.
I got to take it apart. Well, the thing was, it was popping out the exhaust and the intake at the same time, so the lobes are gone.
Well, not necessarily though. It could be that it's sparking on the exhaust stroke, right, and the valve overlap.
Yeah, so it's a waste spark. It'll spark on the exhaust stroke.
Yeah, but caused by what?
Not sparking under compression. Or
So you mean weak coils?
Possibly weak coils.
Or plug.
Yeah, or plug. You have to see what kind of plug is in there. If it has an R in it, that means there's a resistor somewhere. Then there might even be a resistor right up in the boot. And I've seen that on some of the John Deere Kawasaki engines, where you hear it's rattling inside. I'm like, what is that? It's
Yeah.
actually the resistor that's corroded away, and that's why you're getting.
Excuse me. Yeah, I've had that on Hondas. Yeah.
Yep.
Let's see. What is this here? Yeah, for some reason their mufflers are really good on those.
Yep.
Although I still think the Cowies are usually quietest, though. I don't know. Kawasaki's. I like Cowies.
They're very very well engineered.
But the prices, oh my god.
Yeah, I mean, and they can charge them because I mean, if people when they're getting a generator like that for something small, they want it to be as quiet as possible, where you can be right up on top of it and you don't hear it.
And they always have to have those stupid $400 McCuney carbs. Yeah.
I mean, even the Vanguard, that 16 horsepower V twin Vanguard, that carburetor, it's a single barrel, even it's not the dual barrel. I think it's $300.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got one in the bin.
Man,
what's the latest and greatest now out with Generac? Is there anything new that you guys have seen out there lately?
Not Generac. No, it's all the same. Honda clones.
Yeah.
Well, for their smaller stuff.
They really haven't come up with anything new.
Yeah.
I feel like they're not really. They've outsourced a lot of that already, and they're not making it in Wisconsin as much anymore. Some of the older ones, like the XG and the XP series.
Is it the XG we hate because you have to take it all apart to even get to anything?
Yeah,
very hard to service.
Yeah, very hard to service, but they're very well built. It comes with a spin-on oil filter.
Yeah,
but it's like I said, it's just stuff.
It's hard to find any generator with an oil filter these days, or any small engine for that matter.
What are you seeing around there, Jim, for like boneyard picks for your generators? Have you gotten a bunch lately or no?
I'm trying not to look because I have so many right now to work on. I've been given a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, who is Stanley?
He lives literally like 2 minutes down the street.
Okay.
So he messaged me about the rigid, the one that I did the propane conversion on, and when I showed up to get it, he's like, "You want these other two?" I'm like, "Sure." Then he brought over 3 more, which you guys are watching now, and there'll be a third one next week. It's a 2-stroke generator.
But he's giving you all kinds of stuff, that guy.
Oh, that's awesome.
He dropped off a ton of stuff. He actually dropped off 3 more things, which I haven't even looked at yet.
Yep. That's
But
awesome.
there's been a few things like that. A few subscribers have sent me stuff in the mail. Another local subscriber actually dropped off a go-kart. And I looked on Facebook the other day, and I'm like, I don't need anything else. And I saw a free Honeywell generator, 5,500 watts. It looked pretty decent. I'm like, I have to get it. It's free. And someone posted 3 Predator generators for $60 each. And I'm like, damn. I have to get it. I mean, they're giving the stuff away.
Mm.
Yeah, but that's what's happening. And if we have some consistent storms, like we're probably almost into getting close to the peak of hurricane season around here, then you'll start seeing the prices go back up. And getting back to the question you asked, Ken, about what does Generac have? I mean, so the iX was replaced by the IQ series, and then they had the GP series, what we've always seen.
Yeah,
very
5500s.
Yeah, the 5500s. So they have the inverter ones out, the 22, the 25, and those are actually pretty decent. I think they might even have the same engine as the Yamaha, because I don't think Yamaha sources their engines from them directly, but those would be the only ones I would say were worth checking out because they're actually pretty well priced. I think the 2200 starts at like $550, and then the 2500 is like I think close to $7. But it's a lot cheaper than say you're at Yamaha and Honda, but it might be a little bit louder. I don't know what the specs are.
There's a 5,000 watt one sitting over there.
But which one is that?
Oh, you've probably never heard of it, but it's a Chinese clone.
Okay.
And it's branded X speeding rods, and they exactly. But when I bought my Honda, the EU 6500, I bought the biggest one I could at the time. That was 17 years ago.
Yep.
And it was $5,000. And now there's tons of options like that one that are like a quarter of the price.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, is the Honda 4 times better? Maybe. But for the occasional home power outage,
no.
you know,
Unless you're tailgating, if you got a fifth wheel, or if you're boondocking all the time, it's not worth paying that kind of money, in my opinion. It's just
exactly
more than anything.
If you're running it 12 hours a day or 24 hours a day, you need spend the extra money. But
right, and at that point, what you will just wind up getting a standby. So like here, where I live, I'm very close to the city. I'm a stone throw from the city. And then we're on grid power on the hospital line, so I'll never lose power. But we'll see what happens on the other side. On the other side of town,
you need to move.
A squirrel as much as farts, and the power goes out for days on end. But I've been hearing a lot of people getting their portable, and it's been either Generac or Kohler. Have been the two main brands that I've been hearing have been installed around here. And it's
all the industries around here, they're all using Kohlers now.
Yeah.
A lot of people are getting scared away
by Generac and the lack of support they're getting, and they had a lot of issues. Oh,
that's the I mean, the same one I see branded Champion. I think Generac has one that looks exactly like this. That's the thing. A lot of people don't realize when they ask, like, "Oh, is Champion better than Generac or better than Furman, or better than?" It's like they're all the same generator, just painted different colors, different stickers. Granted, some they customize them, they order them custom, but and I see like Champion actually going above and beyond in some cases than some of these others, but at the core they're kind of the same.
Well, because look at Champion. Champion is out there in California. They have an entire U.S. customer service team and a warehouse out there. And any kind of spare parts, I have a corporate account with them. I can go and order any of those parts I need. A lot of the Champions have the remote control to be able to start it up. It automatically chokes, starts it up. You can shut it off, all that stuff. Kipper, for example, they're another Chinese company. They used to have U.S. operations in Salt Lake City, Utah. But then they closed down because they couldn't compete with the market. They were more like on Camping World, fifth wheels, campers, and stuff like that. That's where their main market was. But they lost out to the competition, so they closed down. Now, if you find one of those, you sell it. Find one for cheap, sell it for cheap, because when it dies, it dies. Unless you're smart enough to finagle the wires. I saw one guy on YouTube actually put a Champion inverter unit into the Kipper generator that I have. Without much modification. And which tells me that these Kipper, Generac, Champion, they're all made by the same couple people in the world, and they're just branded different.
A lot of them are cloned too from Honda and Yamaha. And I was working on a clone generator recently. I opened up my Yamaha, the EF 2000, and I opened up this one, and it's like the engine's just identical. I mean, you could buy Yamaha parts and put it in. I'm sure of it. And which is a good thing. I mean, not for Yamaha, but if you're trying to fix these things, you're not going to find the parts specifically for any of these clone engines. But if you just Google Yamaha clone, Honda clone, or you could buy the OEM parts, they'll probably fit and in a lot of cases work.
And then spend an arm and a leg and a lung for it.
Randy had a question.
For Yamaha, for sure.
Randy,
I got that inverter, by the way.
Randy, when I hear the clicking on my thermostat, it's the thermostat. It's the switch.
It's a 24-volt relay that is telling
what that is?
It's telling your control board downstairs to activate a larger relay to turn on your your compressor outside and your air handler. That's all it is. It's just a relay system, but it's got a smart. The newer ones have a brain that makes sure that you don't blow up your outside compressor. It has a delay. Yep.
Yeah.
It was weird. I changed the motor on my whole house fan the other day, and the thermostat that's on the thermostatic switch, I figured I'd hear a click when it reached the temperature. Nope, no click, no nothing. Just on, off, on, off. I set it for 80 or not 80, 120 degrees or
Yeah.
whatever. I thought I'd hear a click or something when it hit the temperature. Nope.
It's the relay
It's
out of earshot, or
it looks like a ceramic tube, and it just I didn't hear any noise out of it.
Wait, do you have the old it's a tube? Does it have the mercury metal in it?
No, it's not mercury. It's
Okay.
actually it's brand new. You know, the ones that they sell at Home Depot, they're very popular. But it's weird because it looks like it's a ceramic tube, like a rheostat on a ceramic tube or something. And I thought it would be a pot with a relay, something clicking when it hit the temperature.
It doesn't need to be mechanical. It could be a solid state relay.
It's got.
It's a solid state relay, you know.
And I thought it was broken. I thought, I don't hear a click. It must be broken. That's why I know the motor was bad. And my motor, it was only a 5-year-old motor, but I guess I had the temperature set too low. It probably ran for hours and hours and hours and just melted.
Oof. Yeah, I have when I put in the new EWC Controls is the name of the company. Really, really great guys. If you ever have any HVAC stuff, that's by them. I put in a new control board because I needed to have the Wi-Fi thermostats, and you needed the common wire to power them from, so you don't run on batteries anymore. And then you have 2 zones, but you didn't. In the old ones, you had to have zone 1 turned on for zone 2 to actually operate, and it would, back and forth. Now you have 2 independent zones with their new controllers. Long story short,
mechanic.
Hey, Bree.
Yeah.
Hello.
Oh yeah. Hey.
Oh yeah.
How you
I was hoping. Yeah, Steve and Brucey were supposed to maybe come up. We'll see. Remember, Bruce is 2 hours from us.
Yep.
He's 3 hours from us. So.
Yeah, that's right. He's on a different time zone, right?
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. I think Bree is 1 hour different from us.
Oh, okay.
I think it's 7:48 her time.
Sandy, change out that mercury tube while you can. I think it's usually just a 2-wire, but you actually, I think, depending on your town, you have to get rid of mercury. It's a hazmat. You got to be careful. You can't just throw it in the garbage, just like you can't throw out smoke detectors in the garbage. They have to be brought to the transfer station and properly recycled.
Hey, we're putting SCRs in for all of our contactors now that are mercury activated.
Yeah. Well, because it's a solid state, it's more efficient, and mercury is a very dangerous metal. It's toxic.
Yeah. We used to play with it.
Yeah.
Quicksilver. I had a mayonnaise jar full of it.
Yeah. In science class, we had a big jar. They take it out and touch it.
You want to play with liquid metal? To play with gallium instead. It's a lot less dangerous.
There you go. Hey, Mark, what's going on, brother?
Gallium is a liquid with a little bit above room temperature.
Yeah. Okay. So Gary, you had said one time you were working on a lot of control boards for these generators.
Yeah.
What's the majority of those? Is that mostly Generac stuff? Or?
It's mostly Generacs, but it's also Briggs & Stratton too, because Briggs & Stratton used to own the Generac name back in the early to mid 90s. And then they bought them. Generac bought it back in the early 2000s, and they've been making it under their names ever since. They're still, the GPs are made in China. If you are lucky enough to find an early model where it was actually made in Wisconsin, great. They stopped making the XG and the XP because they just didn't sell very well. They made them in Wisconsin, and they were probably some of the best heavy, well-built portables that you can find, in my opinion. But obviously, a little bit of a pain in the ass to go and to repair.
A little bit.
And I guess I'm giving them too much credit, right? Because you have to remove the entire panel to get access to the damn starter battery. But
well, when you paid by the hour, it's fine.
You're paid by the hour.
You buy it to fix and then flip. It's a pain.
I tell people all the time, because my wife and I, we listen to we're on the Facebook groups on the various towns. Hey, we're looking, we're trying to get a lawnmower fix. Who do you recommend? And then my name comes up, and our business name comes up and whatnot. And then they're like, well, do you work on it at the house? I'm like, no, I'm going to bring it back here. Oh, well, I would. You can't work on the house here. I'm like, I'm not going to bring all my tools. It's hard.
I'm doing a video on that this weekend of what it takes to do a job on the road, and people don't realize, it's more in the setup and then putting all the crap back.
Exactly. So, I mean, and it's not that I don't do house calls. I mean, if it's a personal friend or somebody that's repeat business, and if it's something simple, okay, I'll do that. But when people that just assume that, you're just going to come over because there's somebody else well, he's all around the state, and I don't know why he would do that, but I don't want to say his name on here. But basically, he goes around, he does all these house calls. Well, one of the guys that that called out to him, and he's like, I'm not going to work on that machine because it's a $12,000 John Deere, and two, the work that needs to be done, you can't easily do it in the driveway. You need to have it on a lift and all that stuff. You needed to go and flush out the hydrostatic transmission after 50 hours. I'm like, that's a lot more involved than you might think. And the guy just simply didn't know. He was cool about it. But I tell people all the time, if you house calls, that's a convenience for you, because now I'm working. My labor rate goes up because now I'm on the clock there because I'm putting my time in. And if I have to carry all my tools, if I have to bring anything big that you get that I need, like a grinder.
Well, do you have all your tools
ahead of time? What you need?
What you need? And I just did that for I just had to redo an entire mowing deck. New spindles, new idle pulleys, even the moving arm was completely ripped because the guy ran over a stump in the high grass and he ruined the damn thing. So, and it was this thing has got to be 15, 16 years old. So it's corroded. So I had to cut all the bolts off. Well, here I'm sweating in the 90-degree heat here, and it's not fun. And I got it done. But I said to people, if it was anyone else, I would have said, no, I'm going to bring it back and I'll work on it in my air-conditioned garage. And I've had people get pissed off at me. It was like, well, how come you can't work on it here? I'm like, that's not what I do. Well, if someone else is offering, feel free to take it. Sometimes it's that you need to have the right customer. It's not, you don't want to get every person's business. That's the fact.
Solar's the way to go. As long as you get some sun.
And monocrystalline panels.
Yeah, those are ones that last, 50 years or something?
A little bit, probably more like 20, 25 years before they lose about 10% of their efficiency. But if it's in a portable application, you're not going to notice a difference. It's the ones on the house that I have a big problem with.
Do you
Jim,
have
I meant to ask
the solar wall?
I meant to ask you about that mower. What are you going to do with that rear engine rider without the mower brake? I mean, are you going to get rid of it, or?
Yes. For that reason, actually for two reasons. One, my kids drive my tractors, and I don't want them driving that tractor because, first of all, when you push the clutch down to shift it, if you don't push it all the way down, you're just gonna coast out of control if you're on a hill. And then of course the blade still spins at a reasonable speed with it disengaged. So
MTD, believe me, I know. Believe me, I know. MTD decks have the worst brake systems, and yours is missing.
Yeah, it was deleted. I saw it in the diagram. I didn't mention it in the video, but I saw it in the diagram, and I didn't see any trace of it. So I'm like, all right, maybe I'm looking at the wrong diagram, but it didn't make a lot of sense to not have any braking system on that.
No, you definitely OPEI would not allow it to be built without a braking system. But like I said, shut it off with the engine running, and shut it off the engine while the deck is engaged, and that's your brake. But you're going to tell that to someone who wants to buy it, they'll sue your butt the minute they get cut.
Yeah, and they all know people don't shut they never shut their machines off. They think that they shut their machines off when at full speed. And then you hear it spin down.
Jim, when I got cut, the deck was off. The deck was off for a minute, Jim. It was off for a minute. And when I reached underneath, it almost took my finger off. A minute, because the bearings were so good that it was still the momentum, just the momentum.
Yeah. Well, that's what I worry about. This mower has extremely good bearings for its age.
Nice.
It's unbelievable.
Probably has a dual bearing. That's what the John Deeres have. They have the upper and lower bearings.
Top and bottom,
top and bottoms. And that's what you split the load from that's on those bearings, that they're going to last a very long time. No, and that mowing deck that I just rebuilt and put back together, I had to PB blast the brakes. The brakes were stuck open. They didn't hit onto the pulleys there. So when I break them apart, and then you have to adjust the arms that pull on those brake pads, so that when you disengage the lever for the mowing deck, they have to close and go right up against that pulley to stop.
Well, OPI spec is supposed to shut off within a second and a half.
Should.
If the spring is rusty at all, the linkage is rusty. No
way.
Every MTD deck I've had in the past year, that brake shoe stops an eighth of an inch from even engaging.
Because you have to adjust them.
Because of rust.
Yeah. And it's the work that I did today, it's going to happen again. To me, it's a terrible design.
Oh, I hate MTD.
I hate MTD. I really do.
Yeah.
I mean, it's we're all making money on them. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, they just put out such crap.
Maybe they do now. I liked this more, but you know what I think I liked most about it is the fact that the engine that was on it sounded like a motorcycle. And when you turn the deck on with the 30-inch blade, it sounded like a helicopter. I mean, it was just unlike anything made today.
Yeah, I have that exact engine in my Snapper rear engine rider, so it's the same thing.
You know what scares me about those Snapper engine rear engine riders is that if you they have shear pins on the back wheels, and I think Aaron's actually makes a similar clone. It's got or at least the one that I'm talking about is an Aaron's, but it's a rear engine rider. They're all built pretty much in the same manner. The guy broke one of his shear pins, and what happens is that your brake is dependent on your wheels staying locked together.
But I don't know if mine has shear pins in it. I mean, it's got axles going to the differential. I don't know if there's shear pins though. I should check.
This particular one had shear pins. It had a shear bolt in it, and normally you would have a Woodruff key, right? But this thing had a shear pin, and he was like, "Oh, it's not going anywhere," and it does. He's stepping on the brake, and he's got a driveway that goes down, and I'm like, "Oh crap!" And sure enough, he put a regular bolt in there. And it bent, but then it mushroomed out the axle. But when it went, he had no brakes and he had no power. I'm like, this thing is a death trap. Get rid of it.
I love it when people bring me tractors where the brakes aren't adjusted and all, because I have a hill in front of my house. And one time I was going down, testing the tractor when I just got it, didn't realize it didn't have any brakes. All of a sudden, I put the thing to the floor. There's no brakes, and there's a BMW parked in front of my house. So I'm right for it, and luckily, I turned the wheel all one way. I must have missed it by an inch, to go into the side of it. And then I went right into the middle of the road, and it was like, holy crap! And so, whenever you're working on a tractor, whoever, make sure it has brakes. Hydros, you don't have to worry about it, but this was gear drive.
Yeah, no. And when I'm loading onto my trailer, I have to be careful of that too. Because I rely on, you have to rely on the brake to not only hold it in place, but then you strap it in the front and the back. Otherwise, that thing's going to go flying.
I had a customer come by a few weeks ago. He had a brand new Toyota. What's the big one? Tundra, I think it is, the big truck.
Yeah.
But the tailgate is like 5 feet up in the air.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And he had ramps on it, and the thing was like this. Mm-hmm. And he's trying to he just wants to back off a John Deere. Ooh. I go, are you nuts? What do you mean? He goes, I drove it up. I go,
it's not a pill you can take. Stupid is forever.
I said to him, I said, go to the side, because you know my house there, Jim. I got that little wall, or on the side, I got the hill.
Yeah.
I said, this way your ramps will be almost straight.
Yeah.
And you just drive it right up. Oh, no, this guy was like a 45, 50-degree angle, and this guy's 300 pounds. And I said, you're going to back down this, John? Oh, my God. I might as well call the EMS right now, because
that's Darwinism at its finest.
Wow.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
Oh man,
it'll work itself out.
There's even like where I usually scope out, the pickups that I need to do, because if it's on a murder horn of a hill, I've told people, like, if you have the ability to leave it at the bottom of the driveway, I don't have a powerful enough car to get up there. I'm not going to go and do acrobatics with the trailer to try and, maneuver it into your backyard to try and get access to it. It's just not going to happen. And a lot of times I've lost some business because of those issues, but I'd rather not ruin my equipment, or worse, put myself at risk if this thing is not in the greatest of shape either. The zero turns have a gear on each of the hydro motors, and a lever comes up to lock those teeth in place so that it doesn't move. Well, if you're not careful, if you don't adjust those over time, then those gears, those teeth will wear down, and then it doesn't matter when that arm comes up, it's not going to hold the wheels. And to replace those, the whole hydro motor has to come off in some cases.
We're talking about hydros. I love when you meet someone who hasn't started their hydro in years. It won't start, and it's like 800 feet from the road, and then the disengage that puts into neutral doesn't work. Mm-hmm. And it's like, come on, what are you going to do?
No,
you're trying to push it, and the wheels are going backwards while you're pushing it, and it's scraping through the grass. Oh my God!
I had that happen one time, and I said, "Look, I can't work on it." I mean, and he was half in mind to basically junk it because he said, "Oh, I got it with the house. It doesn't owe me anything." I says, "All right, well, it's going to cost you more for me to look at it at this point, because if it's going to take me almost an hour to load it, I'm losing money at that point."
Yeah. All right. So what else we got? Any other questions from anybody in the gallery here? Let's see.
Yeah, don't be shy.
Yeah. We could talk about generators, electricity, electronics, all this stuff.
Yeah, I haven't come across any of the boards needing to be repaired, and everything is like, though I usually see an influx of those boards around this time of year. The smart people that want to get it fixed before the season, and then a lot of times I'm like, oh, I get a call and say, hey, it just died on me. Is it worth fixing? Once we go through the Stator test, make sure that it still makes power, it's just the boards, then I'll usually get a couple of them. But the board set that I usually see, I'm not seeing as often anymore, because you're getting the cheap ones from the no-name Chinese brands, and they're what, $15-$20. They look like a half a kidney bean, and you pop them in, and they either work or they don't if you haven't burnt up the windings. And that's really kind of the more commonplace. If you see a higher level Generac or an older Generac or a Honda, no one's going to really work on a Honda or a Yamaha, because they won't give out the schematics or the diagrams.
Yeah.
That's the biggest problem with those things. Getting mechanical parts is one thing, but anything to do with the inverter side, with the electronics, the stepper motors, and here's another one that's in the last couple of years, they put carbon monoxide sensors on them. They'll actually shut down if it senses too high a concentration of carbon monoxide.
Wow.
Which is I've seen those on the Ryobis, I've seen them on the Generacs, and I know you're starting to see them more often now. But a lot of times people are like, I've already been asked a couple times on my YouTube channel on that Ryobi 2300, how do you bypass it? Well, it doesn't show it on the schematic. It's probably it's there, they just don't show it. But how do you bypass it? I have it on the back of my camper, and all the exhaust is in the back and it's shutting it down, but I need to let it run. I says, if it's out of warranty, you could probably just snip the wires and just tie them together. But if it's under warranty, the last thing I want to do is be held liable for showing how to go and defeat a safety feature.
All right, William's asked about this 3 times, but William, that's like asking us what our favorite child is. That's a loaded question.
Very loaded.
When you say, how do you test the Stator, give me an example of what you're talking about. You talking about the Stator on a generator, the Stator on a tractor? I mean, basically, from what I've learned from these gentlemen here, you have the leads coming out of the Stator. You could check resistance. You could check for shorts, things like that. But you check for output and all that. What do you want to test? Is that question has 8 branches that can go on it. So what exactly would you like to test, or what do you think is happening that you'd like to figure out? Okay. Be glad to answer it, but that question in and of itself would take another hour.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is when people have something that doesn't make power, they want to know, is it worth fixing? Because if the Stator is toast, then why buy the brushes or have the AVR fixed or whatever it is, all those accessories.
Sure.
Wow, $160 to replace. Yeah, hey, you got to chart your labor's your labor, whatever it is.
Yeah, that's a lot of work to do that in an inverter.
People don't realize it's a lot of work. Even if the recoil is held in by 3 or 4 bolts, trying to get access to it.
That one you did, Jim, I don't know if it was Yamaha or whatever. I mean, it was like a 2-hour video.
It's a lot of work.
Oh yeah, it's brutal. I had one. It had a broken pull cord. You're like, oh, how hard can it be to swap out a cord? And it's like it's an ordeal, especially if you haven't taken one apart before. It could take you an hour,
the
2 hours,
$20 bill,
easily to replace a rope.
Let's see. What is this one here? Nature's generator system with a wind turbine? No. Haven't heard that, Sandy. You want to throw a link? If you got a link to one of it, Sandy, we'll take a look at it. They haven't really done much wind around here, to be honest. I see a little bit in New Haven off of the coast there. They have a little bit of wind generation, but not much here. Yeah, but you know what, Mend It Man, Luke? If someone comes in and says, I want the pull cord replaced, you're going to replace that pull cord, whatever it takes. And whatever the bill is, the bill is. So,
Exactly. It's
and
based
Bree's
on
a dealer, so she's got to charge dealer rates. So,
Well,
160 is what, hour and a half? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I'm
it
charging
is
80 an hour.
a lot of work.
How much?
I'll say that again.
Yeah,
It's a lot of work.
Yeah,
quite a
Sorry,
bit.
Go ahead, Gary. Sorry.
No, go ahead. I was going to say.
No, there was one generator I worked on once where I think it was a Briggs, probably 3 or 4 horse flathead engine. Very easy on that type of engine to change the cord. But they built the generator, they designed the generator in such a way that you couldn't actually access the top bolts to get the front, blower housing off.
Mm-hmm.
The only way I could see to do it was to disassemble everything, like uninstall the stator, like the gas tank, like everything to get to those 2 bolts. So I literally spent like 2.5 hours. I left the recoil on the machine and rewound it on the machine installed as that would normally be. Incredible pain. Like some of the designs you see people putting out there.
Yeah.
To make a simple job into hours.
Sounds like an engineer didn't have his coffee that morning.
All right, William, you're saying charging the battery. I'm assuming you mean on a tractor or something like that. And 2 different schools of thought on that. You have to know what type of alternator you have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you have the 2-wire with a resistor in one and lights on the other. Do you have the ones with the 2 wires that go into a 3-wire system where you have the 2 AC in, 1 DC out? I mean, you have to tell us what you have, William. If you have a brand or a model, whatever the engine is, we can tell you. But again, there's 17 different bridge systems. So there's all different ways. Not hard. I mean, tractor generators and alternators are very easy. It's just you got to know what you got.
Yeah.
So, oh, yeah, over in the UK, it's already 2 a.m. there, so I appreciate them being up still. Let's see. If you bought a machine, the cord breaks. Yeah, but you know what, though, Luke? Depending, you could even have them look at one of the videos online of someone taking it apart and just say, you want to know why it was 160? Look at this. Because, we shouldn't have to justify what we did, but, I don't know. And Bree's comment there about it with the 2 hours, would I have called the guy up, and number one, Bree, did you know it was going to take that long in the get-go? And if so, did you say, hey, wait a minute, you realize this is going to be a couple-hour job? Or did the guy just say, FX, I'll pick it up tomorrow, and then you got into it and said, oh, crap. So because I know a lot of guys where even though it sounds stupid, I'll call the guy up and say, look, it's going to be 2 hours to fix it. What? Then I'll pick it up or whatever. But they want that option.
And that's it. I mean, at the end and if give them the option, and if they don't want you to fix it, you get your diagnostic fee and get the shit out of their bag.
Yeah. So usually with me, most of my
a lot of people that are like that.
Yeah, most of my customers are repeat that I've had for
15
years or whatever. And I'll be totally honest with them. And if I spend 5 minutes, I'm not going to charge them anything. But if I spend a half hour, right? I got to take the whole thing apart, and then say no, and I got to put it all back together. Well, you're going to give me something for my time.
You got it. Yeah, and I had a guy, he broke the cable to his mowing deck. It's a $15 cable, big deal. It could change it out in a few minutes, and I told him just order the part, and I'll come over and do it. 15 minutes.
Story of our lives. Everyone thinks everything's an easy fix.
Yeah, flip them a couple bucks, and that's it. Well, when I got there, it had a Kohler Courage engine, and it had bad valves, and it was lopping, meaning that the plastic cams had failed with the compression release. I'm like, dude, I know you only spent $15 plus the money that you just gave me to put it in. Throw this thing in the dumpster.
Sure. So William's saying it's a Troy built right anymore. Wants to charge the battery. Well, William, number one, check the battery first, because how many people have a dead cell in the battery? Or check the date on the battery. If it's more than 2 years old, put a new battery and try it.
Yeah,
you can check the stator, William. See again, is it just a 2-wire system coming out, or is it the 2 stator ACs going to a 3-wire voltage regulator rectifier? Right.
If you're having to jump start the tractor every time to start it, and if you have the electric PTO clutch, stop. You are going to burn up everything in the electrical system.
Well, I think I didn't Bree say that the other day about jumping. So someone had a video out about jumping.
Do not jumpstart your tractors. If you keep on jump starting your tractors, if you have this is what happens. So if you have a bad battery, a dead cell, or it's sulfated beyond use, and you have to use the jumper pack to start it up. What's going to happen is that voltage regulator or whatever system that you may have is going to peg at 100% because it's trying like hell to keep that battery charged up to 14.4 volts. If you have the electric PTO clutch, it's even worse because now you're pegging your stator at the full 16 or 20 amps. I've seen enough stators melt because they are not designed to handle that constant duty. Yeah. They're going to get that power from the battery, and then the stator is meant to maintain it. But I've seen plenty of people that have done that.
But Gary, even like you said though, even for because one of the I think it was in Bree's video, she was saying people using cars to jump it and things like that,
right?
Versus say a jump pack. Well, my jump pack's rated for 1,500 amps.
Yeah, 1,500 amps.
Yeah, but it's not the act of jumping, and that's the problem, right? You're saying it's the fact that there's not a battery there to absorb the load. Yeah,
the battery is designed to only start. Right. And then it's used as a reservoir for, especially if you have external accessories like your electric clutch, for example. That's the heaviest electrical draw on most of your residential riding tractors. And then like some of them even have more, like they can even have a 20 or a 25 amp if you have a V-twin, for example, because then you have external hydraulics, then you have control boards that run your implements, things like that. But the electric clutch is, to hold that magnet in place and to hold all that force, is going to take about 10 to 15 amps. They're pretty power hungry in that type of scale that we're talking about. But if you're jumping it all the time, or if it's killing the battery, there's a problem in the electrical system. Don't keep jumping it because you're just going to wind up causing more damage. And probably the most expensive is the stator. That's all copper wires, and it's not easy to get to in a lot of these engines.
William, tight connections. I had so many customers where I'd go out there and the battery cables are flopping around.
Oh yeah, a lot of them are corroded too.
Yeah,
they can poison snow cones.
Ryobi inverter. You guys work with a lot of those Ryobi inverters?
I've had a few of them. There's a guy that works for Ford in my area that he's one of the sales guys, and they go out to the tailgate, or they do the demonstrations, and they have those little Ryobi generators powering their booth. And I'll get those there now and then just to work on them. And I think they're great because you can get an app on your phone. That's what I mean. Yeah, Ryobi, they're not the best, right? But they have the same engine as some of the Yamaha generators. So that's, but the inverter module, I don't know. The features that you can download an app and you can actually see how much fuel is left. You can shut the generator off. And if it has an electric start, you can probably start it there too. But those are actually, I like the features. I'm not necessarily decided if they're actually good for the long haul, but this one did 400 hours on it. So
I got one of those expecting to sell my Yamaha because the feature set seemed so good.
Yeah.
But I had so many problems. I made a video on it with the generator doing what it's supposed to do, like the basics. I ended up just selling it. Kept the Yamaha.
Yeah. I mean, that's all I really need. I mean, I love my Yamaha. I think I only got like 20 hours on it, but because I used to tailgate a lot when I was single. Now it's just I like staying home with the dogs.
Ed's right on the voltage regulator rectifiers. Kawasaki. I probably replaced most of those out of all of them.
A lot of them. I used to go and get a couple of the parts just to have in stock, but then it got to be very expensive, so I just buy them as I do the jobs. But I've replaced.
William, you could check the output of the stator though. Just put a meter on it and see what kind of AC you're getting out of it.
You're going to get AC, and a worn out battery is actually going to show over 14 volts, for example, because it's not able to take a charge, so it's
going to go over to try and make up for it, right?
Well, what's happening is even though it's a high, batteries go higher resistance as they start to sulfate and wear out. And normally higher resistance means less current, but that voltage regulator is trying to balance it. So it's trying to output more current to try and get the resistance of the battery to come down, which from the way that the circuit is designed is to get that battery charged to increase the capacity. That's why you can't. But these U1 size batteries, which is the most common, if after 2 years they're smoked, especially if they're left in the shed all winter.
What JP's saying here, the generator started smoking.
Running the house during how much if a draw did you have pulling? Started smoking, running the house.
Russia's unit started smoking. What was smoking? What do you think was smoking?
Bad stator.
Bad stator. Was it a standby? Was it a portable? I
thought isn't there protection in the generator so you won't smoke a stator? Or what?
Well, most of them have on the more expensive ones. You actually have magnetic trips. The more common one that you find is the push to reset, which are thermal. They can run up to 125% of their rated capacity for at least a short amount of time before they finally trip, and that's enough time to melt wires and smoke something. So they're considered supplemental. You would normally, if you're going to run it into a house transfer switch, you would have to have a proper circuit breaker on that.
Yeah, right. But on portable generators too, they do have circuit breakers, but there's still, if something goes wrong in the stator,
forget.
Gonna stop.
No, it's too late. Yeah,
the thermal runaway. Yeah.
SMR, check out James's videos where he uses the water trick and the bolt trick.
I have a better one now.
Oh, what do you got?
But there is some damage risk involved. If you take the rotor bolt, you unscrew it maybe a quarter of an inch. Get a nice big hammer, give it a whack, pops right off.
Really?
Yeah.
I like the water jack myself.
If you don't want to damage it, use the water.
Yeah.
But if even I took apart 3 recently just using the hammer, and it worked great. I mean, so easily. It's almost like, why use the water anymore? It's really the biggest risk is you miss and you hit the rotor, and then it's bad.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I keep a rotor. I keep a Generac rotor just so I can actually test the regulators.
Hey, Bill, this is about generators, not dinner. Okay.
Let's see here. It's not the best setup in the world, but
you talk about. Oh, wait, hold on, Gary.
That's how.
So you power that rotor up with the regulator?
Yep.
On a bench supply?
Yep, off a bench supply, and then I see the amperage draw, see how much it's drawing, and then you could actually make sure that the regulator shuts off by shorting 2 pins, making sure.
How much does it pull? Like an amp or 2?
It pulls about 7 amps for the 7,000.
Wow.
Yeah, at full load. So that's why those silicon controlled rectifiers use pulse width modulation it biases that transistor so it doesn't draw as much. That's what the snubber feedback circuit. So it's going to close that SCR so it doesn't output its full current. But that's also where you get the dirty power for a lot of times because it's not properly filtered.
Jim, the old power mates like you're talking about, were those capacitors on those?
The power mate, which one? Actually, I mean, power mate does have brushless and brushed. Usually not an AVR on the old ones. I'm working on one right now. I think Gary can probably know what this is for.
How much do you pay for it, though?
This?
I paid like $60 for the last one.
Wait, you spent how much in them?
$60.
Well, that was a brushless one too.
No,
you
but
bought the OEM.
Oh, okay. Well, because I was going to say
this is not brushless. This is it has a bridge rectifier and a large capacitor just for a reservoir.
What's the farad and what's the brand? Because you could probably get those far cheaper on DigiKey. And
no, this was like $12.
Oh, okay.
It was 220 microfarad, I think, and the I can't even read it. TEAPO. TEAPO.
Oh yeah, that's a brand. Yeah. The brand.
Yeah, most capacitors now are either in China or in Mexico. I found that out. That's where they're all made now.
Hey, Tim. Tim's over in Scotland. So it's 3 in the morning over there now. Let's see. Saying hello. Yeah, because remember, Jim, that time I had to find that one capacitor for the McCulloch, and the one guy on eBay was the only one that had it with the right farad rating, and it was like $60. He knew what he had.
Yeah, I mean, anything. Well, I shouldn't say anything, but if it fits and it's the right rating, then you'll probably be okay.
Mm. All right, well, we're getting to an hour and a half. If no one has any other questions, I got to get some dinner. So
late.
I know. It's funny though. The kids are grown now; they're gone. It's like dinner. There's no dinner time anymore. You know, my wife made homemade pizza, so I'm gonna go grab some of that.
Oh yeah, I got a pizza stone for the grill. That's fun.
That's what do you say? The overloaded. Yeah, it could have blown the capacitor if it had one. Yeah. Interesting.
Square style Stator housings. Oh, it's that cheap one. Yeah. It's no, that's gonna have. It could be brushed. Well, the square styles usually have a plate with a concentric copper ring that the two brushes will slide on. But there's also a Bakelite plastic, plastic on there. He could have started to burn up the. Could have burned up the brushes. I mean, you got to look. Got to look.
All right. So if no one else has a question, or if you do have a question, leave it in the comments after. Yep. We'll talk between ourselves and get you an answer. Because I know there's people that are going to watch this after. I always get emails after the stream saying, I missed it. Because remember, it's 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, yeah.
And a lot of them over there.
Thank you so much for watching. If you're watching now and it's like that late, jeez.
Yeah. And I just want to say to Bruce and Steve, shame on you. You're supposed to be we did it this time of night so we could be with them. But anyway, thank you to everyone showing up, especially Gary, Jim. I appreciate it. And like I said, any questions, anyone out there, or if you're watching this in the future, put a question in the comments. We all read the comments. We'd be glad to help you out. So,
and then we also have our emails on our YouTube channel. We finally figured out how to do that. So if you need to email me or email James or Ken,
All right. Sounds good, everybody. All right. Take care, everyone in the chat. You too. We'll talk to you soon. Take it easy, everybody.